The mist clung to Harrow's Hollow like a shroud. It filled the valley, swallowing the houses and shops whole. Only their rooftops peeked out like islands in a white sea. You could never see very far in Harrow's Hollow, not with the mist always swirling around. It was an old town with old secrets, and the mist kept those secrets safe. Thomas arrived in Harrow's Hollow looking for a fresh start. He wanted to forget his past, to disappear into the mist. The townsfolk were friendly enough in their wary way. They told him about the legend of Harrow's Hollow, a tale of a werewolf that haunted the woods. Thomas just scoffed. He didn't believe in fairy tales. He preferred the concrete reality of his own troubled past. The houses were old, their wooden beams groaning under the weight of age. The streets were narrow and cobbled, slick with moss and dampness. The air always smelled faintly of wood smoke and something else, something wild and untamed. It was the smell of the forest that pressed against the edges of the town, the forest where the mist was born, the forest that held Harrow's Hollow captive. Thomas soon settled into a routine, finding work at the local mill. He kept to himself, avoiding the curious gazes of the townsfolk. He spent his evenings in his small cottage, reading by the fire. He tried to ignore the whispers that followed him, the strange looks that seemed to see something he didn't, but the mist had a way of seeping in, blurring the lines between what was real and what was imagined. The howling started at night, a low, mournful sound that seemed to rise from the very depths of the forest. It was a lonely sound, full of pain and something else, something hungry. Thomas tried to ignore it at first. He told himself it was just the wind whistling through the trees, but the wind didn't have teeth, and it didn't leave tracks. One particularly thick night, the howling was closer. It sent shivers down Thomas's spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He went to the window and peered out into the mist. The street was deserted, the houses dark. Only the faint glow of the moon illuminated the swirling mist. He could have sworn he saw something move in the shadows. The next day, whispers spread through the town like wildfire. A farmer had found his livestock slaughtered, torn apart as if by some wild animal. But the tracks were all wrong, too large, too powerful. The townsfolk were afraid. They spoke in hushed tones of the beast of Harrow's Hollow. Thomas tried to remain skeptical, but the fear in their eyes was contagious. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, something was out there, and it was getting closer. Driven by a strange compulsion, Thomas found himself drawn to the woods one moonless night. The air was heavy, the mist so thick he could barely see his hand in front of his face. He could hear the rustling of leaves, the snapping of twigs. He felt a presence watching him from the shadows. Suddenly a pair of glowing eyes pierced the darkness. A low growl reverberated through the trees. Thomas froze, his heart pounding in his chest. A massive shape emerged from the mist, its fangs bared in a silent snarl. The creature lunged. Thomas cried out as teeth sank into his arm, the pain blinding. He stumbled back, falling into the cold embrace of the mist.